we get in this episode today, please make sure to like, share, and comment on this video. That would really help us out because it appears, as you will see in this video, that the powers that be do not want us talking about this stuff, the truth behind spirituality, mystery schools, all that kind of stuff. You will see about a quarter of the way into the video, the footage actually starts to go out. You'll see us pause the camera to do some cleansing and then restart again. So obviously what we're going to be talking about in this video is super, super, super potent, and it would really help us out if you guys could share this, because as you can tell by my numbers, from the amount of subscribers I have and the amount of people who actually see my videos, I have been put into a corner on the internet where the internet world does not want my videos to be released. I'm trying to be very careful about how I say that for certain words, but you guys know what I'm saying. So please help us out. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy this episode. Please let me know if you have any questions about the topics covered in this episode down in the comment section below so I can address them in a follow-up video. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Esoteric Atlanta. Of course, my name is Brice. I'm here with my friend and my partner in crime, Paula, this morning. How you doing? Well, it's evening for you. How you doing, Paula?
Yeah. I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Yeah, it's been a long day, but good.
I always feel so bad filming with you, with my Australian friends, because it's always like the butt-ass crack of dawn here in the United States, but it's literally the end of the day for them. So it's always a wild ride for us, for the Australians and the Americans. But I wanted to do, Paula, because we've been soft launching our new platform, our new mystery school, just on YouTube this week. Next week it'll start being promoted on Rumble, and then I'm going to put it on Instagram and TikTok, and we're kind of creeping into launching this because we're trying to really get a rhythm with this so that we can be the best of service to you guys in the best way possible. So we don't want to, my mother used to say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So we're trying to go that one bite at a time to make sure that everything is, because when you start something, obviously there's going to be some hiccups that we're going to have to smooth out and stuff. That's true with any online, but it's really like a virtual mystery school. And Paula, we've gotten such incredible feedback about this, and I can't wait to even go further. I can't wait to do your courses as well, you guys, Paula's courses too. So before we get into it, though, I wanted to share a comment. Now, guys, Paula and I were just talking about this. I am incredibly shadow banned right now, incredibly shadow banned, if you notice the numbers. So it would really help me out a lot if you guys wouldn't mind sharing these videos, if you feel like it, with your friends and family. We can debate as to why I'm shadow banned. That's the hard thing about YouTube, right? Sometimes you don't even know why you've been put in the corner. But I wanted to talk about this comment right here, which I'm so excited about. Rundabum, I think, is that how you say your name? Hopefully I said that right. He said, hey, I think I'm going to sign up for your Ashtanga series, a video course. I watched your video last night. I did see that there are visual guide workouts for me to do, which is what I want. And I know you said these will be effective for achieving the same results as someone might at a more expensive Ashtanga retreat. So I'm excited, but I will need guided exercises to do. And I also thank you so much to the Dragon Collective. I love this comment. I highly recommend Brice. Her videos are my staple exercise routine, along with walk, jogging, and hiking. This yoga and her teachings are beyond fantastic. I have noticed such a positive change in me and my body the last 4 months. I'm so happy. That makes me so happy. The Dragon Collective. You can bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? All I can do is give you the template. So you need to be so proud of yourself because you're the one that made the magic work. And so thank you for putting that up there. But I wanted to go back and address this. So yes, we were just chit-chatting backstage, and so we do have an Ashtanga playlist right now on the Academy, which we can pull that up in a minute, which is literally the first video is me kind of talking a little bit about modern day Ashtanga yoga. And the next two videos are the primary series and the second series. Now, these are not necessarily videos to exercise with. They're more demonstration videos. So Paula and I were just kind of talking about this, and please interrupt me, Paula, if something doesn't make sense, because I've been in this world for so long that sometimes I think people might know something when they don't. So please stop me if something doesn't make sense. So with Ashtanga yoga, we're looking at a very potent practice. Comes from the Yoga Karanta, which is thousands and thousands of years old, and we call it your prescription. So when we look at any type of like medicine in general, we're looking at,
Sorry about my dog.
oh, you're totally fine. We're looking at levels of poison, right? Like even if you look at things like psychedelics, you're taking small doses of poison that are beneficial. Same with the practice. And so with Ashtanga yoga, you absolutely need to learn this in a very methodical, in-depth way with a teacher. Otherwise, it could be backfire on you. Now, there are 6 different series with Ashtanga yoga. You can't leapfrog. We get a lot of people that come in from the Vinyasa flow world, and they think because they've been practicing Vinyasa flow for 10 years, they should just leapfrog into second series. No, that's not how this works. You have to start all the way back again in primary series. It's only primary series because it's yoga chikitsa, which is physical therapy. And it takes about 10 years for someone to master primary series alone. Most people will never finish second series. Most people will practice primary to maybe half second, and that will be it for their life. And, you know, with all 6 series, my teacher who recently passed away was the only person like living that had actually finished all 6 series.
Wow. So it's quite rare for people to do all 6.
Yeah. And for me, I make no bones about it. 4th series, I don't want to go into 4th series. I have a hard time watching 4th series because it makes me nauseated. Some of the postures, like bodies are bending in ways they shouldn't be bending, basically. And it looks like an exorcism. I tell people it literally looks like an exorcism. Now, my boyfriend, now every single series has a purpose, right? So there is an actual purpose, but every series is also complete in itself. So my boyfriend makes a good point at this. Now, there are only 6 series in Ashtanga Yoga strictly for the fact that every single person needs to find struggle. So there are people who are just naturally athletic. There are people who have done gymnastics for years or dance for years, and so their body has been conditioned to have an easier access to these shapes than someone who has never done anything like that, right? And so for those people, they might have to get to like 4th series before they actually find yoga, before they actually find the friction. All right. So, and David Grieg, my original teacher, used to say, if you struggle in primary series, good. That means your karma came up early. So in that aspect, you know, and for me, primary is actually my favorite. It's the most grounded of all the series. Now, to be an authorized teacher like myself, you have to have completed both 1st and 2nd series. Most of us are practicing into 3rd now. Which is also rare. That's why there's so few authorized teachers, but we have to have practiced this thoroughly for many years to be able to teach you this, not just from a theoretical perspective or a philosophical perspective or even an anatomical perspective, but also from understanding what it feels like in the extreme controlled stress you're putting your body under. You know,
and safety as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And a lot of with Ashtanga, you know, I tell my students all the time, one of the biggest misunderstandings about yoga is flexibility. We're not looking for flexibility. And I always tell my students, if a teacher is telling you to get more flexible, don't go back to that teacher. What we're actually looking for is strength and mobility. And mobility is not flexibility. Mobility is flexibility powered by strength, right? So it's not we're not looking for any flexibility on its own. Passive stretching, passive flexibility is dangerous. So when we look at Ashtanga Yoga, the biggest thing we're looking at as teachers is somebody getting stronger. So, and we have to, in the Ashtanga world or in the Mysore room, the teaching room, you go to these like Vinyasa flow classes and teachers have this like teacher voice where they're reading poetry. That's not what happens in Ashtanga. In the Ashtanga room, the teacher is very tough love. There's no emotion. They have to remain very neutral. And that is for a particular reason, because you as the student, the teacher has to be able to gauge whether you're struggling, whether the struggle you're experiencing is a good, healthy struggle, or whether you're borderline about to have a panic attack, right? And so that's why it takes all these years too, is you have to be able to read the room and to know like what students you can push and what students you need to pull back on. Because when
it brings up a lot of stuff, doesn't it? It brings up a lot of traumas that are held in the body and a lot of emotions, and it helps to release everything.
Yes, and that ego, and Ram Dass talks about this, so your ego, your illusionary self, when you start to get to the core of your perceived limitations, which come from trauma, come from all sorts of things, the ego is going to flare up even more. And it's going to start to protect that. It's not going to want to go there, even though you consciously want to go there. Subconsciously, there's this push-pull happening in the psychology of the student. And sometimes it's the teacher's job to stand there, because these postures, again, they're potent, right? So within the design of Ashtanga yoga, and this is why I'm so anti-Vinyasa flow, because every single posture has a particular poison, has a particular vayu opening. And if you don't line the postures up together properly, it's going to create craziness, right? We're trying to, because it's like mixing poisons together, right? And so a lot of the Vinyasa flow world, where they're only doing these like 200 teacher trainings, which aren't legitimate, these are scams, they're not getting this education. So they don't know that there is.
That's just not enough time.
It's not enough time.
I mean, you spent quite a few years in India, didn't you, to learn what you've learned?
And even after you're authorized, I mean, before I was authorized, I had already, before you go to India, you have to have completed like primary series at least, and you start over again in India. But the Shala is so busy, it's like a master's program. Like, he can't teach somebody sun salutations, right? Because he's got students in there who are practicing fourth series. There is a posture, I think it's in fourth series, that it's either fourth or fifth, that people notoriously black out when they do it the first time.
Goodness.
And
Brice,
so,
I would love for you to go into a little bit of history of Ashtanga yoga and about these 6 series, and what kind of people would practice this. So is this more from like thousands of years ago, when people would be doing this obviously to reach enlightenment?
yeah. So the funny thing is my boyfriend always says that the original, so I'll go ahead and take this off screen, but we're getting to, this is kind of where your question lies, what you just asked, Paula, for this awesome guy that I hope you join us on the platform. But so my boyfriend always says that the original conspiracy theorists were the yogis, because they realized, and we are going to go through, I've done some Yoga Sutra stuff on my YouTube channel, but we are eventually going to go through the Yoga Sutras too. Which was
We'd like to go through it together on our channel. Yeah,
exactly.
And my book is on its way as well.
The Yoga Sutras are great for anybody who is interested in spirituality. And so let's first whittle down what the word yoga means. So I think a lot of times people think of yoga as the postures that we do. Yeah. That is what's considered asana.
Immediately what we think of,
right. And that's because of the world we live in now. Like, we have the Instagrams, we have, we live in a very different world than the world where this started, like thousands of years ago, right? So yoga itself, yoga can be found in so many different things, because yoga, just, some people say it's union. It's a little bit more detailed than that. It actually means one-pointed, focused of mind. That's yoga, is a one-pointed, so any type of even if you're like playing the piano and you're in that zone of that one-pointed focus, you're in yoga, right? For people who are long-distance runners and you get that runner's high, that's yoga, because you're in a one-pointed focus where there's not monkey mind going off. It's centered.
So it's being in the zone.
Yeah, and that's a form of meditation. And that's where, if you look at Course in Miracles, they also refer to this. This is where God is found. So God isn't in the past or the present, because the past and the present don't really exist. They're still kind of illusionaries. Like, the past is gone and tomorrow never comes. So now, be here now, is Ram Dass's first big book, was be here now, in this moment. So what does that mean? That means, like, there's this great Japanese meditation, and I can't remember the name of it, but I actually play with this sometimes because I struggle with anxiety. So like, if you, let's say you're in the kitchen chopping carrots to cook. A lot of people will chop carrots, but they'll be thinking about something else. So this meditation is, you focus on, I'm chopping carrots. Look how orange the carrots are. So you bring your awareness totally, or like in your shower, I'm washing my hair right now. Let me smell this. You truly get yourself involved in that moment when you feel your mind. And that's so hard to do, because most of the time we are multitasking with our brain, right?
And thinking about everything else we've got to do. Yeah.
Everything. And
instead of focusing on the feelings and the smells and the sights and everything that's going on in that moment. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's all that's real. Time is illusionary. So everything that's happening now is what's real. And, when you die now. When you're born now. Like, it's all in the now. And so that's kind of where that one pointed focus comes from. So my boyfriend laughs and he's like, I think the yogis, they were the biggest conspiracy theories, because one day they just kind of looked around the world and they were like, this isn't adding up. Like, this is not
making sense.
So we come into these bodies, we live these lives, we have all these experiences, we feel all these feelings, and then we die? Like what?
Yeah, there's got to be more to it than that.
And so they started developing these practices to get, and of course I do think, if you look more like Hindu mythology will say, I do think that they were inspired by divinity to find this. And a lot of the ancient teachings of Yahshua or Jesus are based in this as well. Like where he says heaven and hell are inside of you. Like in the Gospel of Thomas, when they ask, where is heaven? And he says, if heaven's in the sky, the birds will get there first. If heaven's in the water, the fish will get there first. Heaven is inside of you. It's in you. So these are all very yogic Eastern things. And so when we first see, so this kind of gets to the practice portion of this. So we first see historically what we know now. Maybe we'll find more stuff later. But us peasants, the 99% of us, what we know now, the first place we see yoga actually mentioned is in the Bhagavad Gita, which we have a course on the Bhagavad Gita, which is to me, one of the most life-changing books I've ever read. Take you a day to read it. It's a part of a bigger book. And how this comes up in the conversation with Krishna and Arjuna, he talks about jnana yoga and karma yoga, like all these different aspects of yoga, which are all umbrella, which are all philosophical. Krishna's not sitting there saying, and then you put your leg behind your head, and then you bring your hands together and you breathe 5 breaths and forward fold. No, he's talking about the actual literal practice of yoga, which is the one pointed focus of mind. So for those who don't know, the Bhagavad Gita, it's a smaller portion of a bigger book, a bigger story. And Bhagavad Gita translates to the Song of God. All right? Now, Arjuna, the whole story is this guy, Arjuna, he's a warrior, and he's standing on this battlefield in India, and he's looking across the field, and he sees his friends, his family, his cousins. He's in this family battle, and he's having to go to war against these people that he's loved in his life. Even his cousins that he doesn't really like them. You like someone, but you love them, but you don't like them because they're family, So he's having all these very human reactions. And it's the first time, because Arjuna is a warrior, so he's been a warrior his whole life, but this is the first time he's had this very human experience where he doesn't see the enemy as a them. He sees the enemy as a me. That connection of, I have to go unalive these people that are like me, that there's a humanality to this, which in a bigger scope, we see these stories from this in war all the time with soldiers. And so he kind of turns to Arjuna and he's like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. And you would think, because we think of spirituality as being all light and love, and that at Christian,
it's okay, you don't have to.
You passed the test, that's so great. But no, Krishna, he's playing his little flute and he's like, tough shit. Yeah. Buttercup, you got to do this. This is your karma. This is what you are. You're a warrior. Go be a warrior. And so this whole Bhagavad Gita is a conversation between Arjuna and Krishna. So it's literally this on the battlefield, and it brings you into the realization that hard stuff is necessary to break the illusion. And so what we do with the yoga, the actual asana practice, is that we're putting the body. So if you go to a yoga class where the teacher tells you to get comfortable or only do something that's comfortable, that's not a proper yoga class.
That's a red flag.
That's a huge red flag, because it's very counter to the actual text. But you also see a lot of the yoga in the Western world that's been corrupted. For some reason, people think you shouldn't sweat. Absolutely, you should be sweating. You should be buckets of sweat, because heat. That's tapas. That's one of the. That's part. What we go. There's a section for the niyamas and the yamas and the niyamas. Tapas is focused heat. So tapas is sweat. It's anything from sweat, but it's also another form of tapas would be when you're studying for an exam, when you were in school, which again, when you're totally focused, you're in that austerity. But again, that's also yoga, right? That one pointed focus of mind.
Yeah.
So when you're in a traditional setting, now I have music playing in our videos because I think that actually does help when people are at home and they don't have a teacher there. But in a traditional yoga class, we don't play music. And part of that is very intentional. because we want your senses, we want your emotions to be raw. We don't want to entice you in one way or the other, right? So if a song is playing that you really like and it makes you feel good, but you're an imposter you hate, there might be a conflict subconsciously that we don't want. That we want to try to remove. It's kind of like we were talking about off camera the other day, Paula, the deprivation tanks, the water it's kind of like you're doing sensory deprivation in a lot of ways. Not the same thing, because we are actually moving your nervous system, but we're trying to remove any type of stimulus that's going to influence what you're naturally going to have stimulated, if that makes sense. And it's going to be different for every person, And so when you're in these yoga poses, like, first of all, we have to get strong for many reasons. One is because of safety. So, if you're throwing your legs behind your head because you can, but you don't have core strength, you're going to hurt yourself. That core strength. So when you bring the leg behind the head, when people first start putting their legs behind their head, the teacher has to be there to help them to hold the weight of the leg, but they're like this. You see them kind of collapse, and over time, every day, they learn how to get the leg back there and then open the chest while pulling the core in. So that's stimulating the values of the hip up the leg, which is the foot is also flexed. So when the foot is flexed, the whole leg is engaged, but the core is also engaged too. So let's think about it this way. We have all these values, these nadis, 72,000 nadis in your body, and these are energetic creeks of energy, lines of energy. Now, to power, it's almost like you think of a mill, like my mind's gone blank. For water, we have them here are they called mills? We have them in the South. They go through.
Like not the windmills?
The windmills are, same thing for air, for the windmills, but we have them here in the South where they go through the water, and I can't, it's early, guys. Put it in the comments. You guys know what I'm talking about, though. But they come through, they built them to put them in like channels of water to help the water flow. Right? So they're pushing the water. So the same thing is happening in your body. When you're not engaged, like let's say you're taking a forward fold, but your feet aren't flexed, fuck all is happening. Nothing's happening. You're just injuring yourself. Energy's not moving. Muscles are not being stimulated. Nothing is happening. So when people take a forward fold, this is an easier one, we have to make sure the feet are flexed and pushing away. The heels are pushing. So that engages the calf muscle. It engages the quadricep. The knee then stabilizes. It also starts to pull the stomach in, so that when you're folding, you have these literal muscles that are pulling the energy through the body and the blood through the body to circulate it. Now, again, that comes into hand positioning too. For example, I had this conversation with Catherine yesterday. Like, when you're first practicing, if you can't reach your feet, we'll give you a strap or something, and then you catch your feet. And eventually you're going to be able to grab your wrist and come around the balls of your feet. Now, a lot of people think it's fancy to bring their hands all the way to the floor. I tell my classes all the time, we only do that for Instagram. That's it, for Instagram.
Just to look good.
So with your foot, we have reflexology. And up at the ball of the foot, there is a pressure point for your lungs. Okay, you guys, we're back. I've got my dragon's blood incense right here. We've just blessed the space, you guys. So if you see
smoke, I've got some Palo Santo going on.
So hopefully it's crazy, isn't it, Paula? They don't want us empowering people.
Yeah, I was just saying to you offline, I'm so shocked about this, because I can understand the missing books of the Bible and stuff being controversial, but this is exercise. We're just trying to strengthen our bodies and our soul, but it's obviously a lot more powerful and potent than we realized.
Well, I think the big catch here is that I keep telling people that exercise is the foundation of spirituality, and I don't think the powers that be like me saying that, because I think that they
really have been programming us to believe it's just for vanity, it's just to look good.
Yeah, and that spirituality is disassociating, and all spirituality is reading tarot cards and channeling dead dudes, and and that has its place, but the root of spirituality is getting in touch with your own spirit, your own life, your own soul. It has nothing to do with anybody else, right? Or any other entity. It's you, it's your spirit. And I think there's so many aspects of controlled opposition. We know this. And we see it in the truther community, and there's also in the spiritual world. They know people are going to become curious about spirituality, especially at the age of Aquarius. And so they're going to put decoys in to entice the ego. So what do I mean by that? The ego is just sitting around reading tarot cards and thinking you're perfect and fine and you don't need to do anything else. That's the ego, right? Where none of us are, we're all finding that balance. We had that conversation with Carrie yesterday, and part of that is getting into your body. And, I get pushback from that a lot, where people get mad at me because I say that. I'm like, that's the truth. The truth doesn't care about your feelings. And your feelings aren't facts.
No.
Facts are facts.
That's right. And your feelings are a mixture of your thoughts and your emotions that are going on in your mind.
And those aren't even real. Like, that's the whole thing about yoga, is don't believe everything you fucking think, right? Like, it's not. And when we talk about the body, like, to go about answering, so to the guy who asked that question, this was the perfect question to ask, because obviously it pissed the establishment off. But this is why we have to do this on a different platform too, you guys. Like, I can't.
That's right. Yeah, we can't share the stuff that we're sharing on here, because this is what happens.
I could put YouTube channels up of exercise videos, sure, but I can't sit there in these exercise video on YT and tell you what it's doing to your chakras, or what it's where your values are. So they'll take it down. They don't want you to know that. And that's the thing. We are naturally inclined to move. I mean, have you ever, like, when you've been on a long flight, or you've had to sit at your desk and you just want to stand up and stretch and move? Like, they can't stop you from moving. They knew that people are going to want to exercise. They're going to want to feel those endorphins, right? And let me know, Paula, if it goes wacky again. But they know that was going to happen, and so they have to control opposition. They have to come in and be like, oh, this is literally for vanity and for you to look good, and you need to punish your body. If you eat too much, just do extra hard work at the gym. So it's that mental entrapment.
And how many pictures are just thrown in our faces, just on social media and in movies, where there's just all these big buff people, and it's just almost, it's very over the top, the very Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of very over the top. And I don't think that's not healthy, and that's not spiritual. There's a lot of steroids and things going on into that.
Right. And I think with, like, the bad guys, the establishment, they knew we were going to want to move. So they had to find a way to taint that, to make that something negative, where we got in a negative mind space, so that we wouldn't evolve. And for me, when I first started changing my perspective on exercise through studying traditional yoga, it changed the way my body actually responded to that. So even speaking of vanity, my body started to look better when I actually perceived the exercise differently, because I wasn't punishing my body.
And doing it for the right reasons.
Right. I was like, ooh, I need to tone my stomach, not so I look good in a bathing suit, but so that my pelvic floor is strong, and so that Kundalini can start to move through my spine, and so my lower chakras are stable. And if my core is strong and my lower 3 chakras are more stable, then I'm not going to have as many emotional issues, and I'm going to be more balanced and more grounded. And so when I started to, or every time, like, for example, like a bar class, when you're in that deep burn and you're what they call burning your muscle out, when I'm doing that work, those pulses, that when your mind's like, oh, this sucks, this burns, instead I try to take my thoughts into the area that's burning to explore. What's this? Where are we going? What's being burned? What patterns are being burned away right now? And where are these?
What's being held in there?
Right. And so it changes your perspective on the work. You don't have to be an Olympic athlete. That's not what we're saying. You just need to move your body. And in the beginning, it is going to be a bit of a flop shop, as we say. It is going to be a little bit, because so many people spend their life disassociated from their body. They don't realize they are. That to come back into the body is going to be a challenge. You're going to start to explore and feel sensations you haven't felt in years. We are all aware of the gross body. When your quads are sore, when your biceps are sore, but the subtle body is different. You start to notice different tiny little aspects of shifts in your body that you would have never noticed before, because you're becoming more ingrained into that experience of the body. So back to your original questions. Now, again, back in the thousands of years ago, obviously life was very different than we have now. And actually, I think now it's a little bit more comprehensive, because now we have way more anatomical awareness. We're also at a time period where people are used to working out. So we have, my teacher used to say all the time that the Westerners really upped the game, because we came into this practice already doing the jazzercises, already going to like in India, they have gyms in India, but it's not as much of the culture to like go work out as it is for us in the West.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, and of course their lives consist of more exercise than our lives do. Like they had just living. We're very comfortable in the West. So their bodies being worked in different ways anyway. So, this system was created, these 6 different, over many generations, of these different like equation of exercises, like different like types of potencies. It's like creating a recipe, right? Like, so I've used this example before in the Alchemy of Movement workshop. Like, we know food gives nutrients, but an apple and green beans have 2 different nutritional values. Yeah. They taste different. They have different experiences. If you're making an apple pie, you're not going to put green beans in an apple pie, right? Unless I was telling Paula, I learned some trivia today that the old church ladies back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s used to put rogue ingredients in their recipes they submitted to the church cookbook so that no one would be able to cook their specialties as well as them. So unless you're an old church lady that's a petty Betty, you're not going to put...
Yeah, you might put some random things in the apple pie.
We're not going to put green beans, and we know not to do that, because even though green beans have a nutritional value and apples have a nutritional value, they don't work together.
Yeah,
they're different. And that's the same thing with movement and with these asanas, is they all have value, but they're different values. And so we have to create these recipes that work around the value of what we're trying to do. So in primary series, it's physical therapy, yoga chikitsa. So we're putting together postures that result in, if people do need to lose weight, if there's like a weight issue, they will lose weight. People will have to get stronger. Like, there's all these different things that start to happen with people. Usually get a little taller because they're unlocking tension in their spine. And that has to be done, the strength and all that has to be set before we then go to the next one, which is nervous system therapy, which is 2nd series. So you can't do nervous system therapy if your body isn't strong enough to handle it, right? Because that's a batshit crazy series.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got to get you strong in your disposition before we take you into the next series. Some people will never get to 2nd series because, as David Greek says, they're the lucky ones. Their karma came up early, and so that's why it takes a long time. And in the West, people are very pose hungry. They chase poses. They want to have, that's the ego. Like, if I can get to Ekapada Shirshasana and put my leg behind, then I'm a yoga practitioner.
Yeah, then I've made it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No. But just because that looks good on the outside, it doesn't mean that you've got the knowledge and the understanding and the philosophy behind you. Yeah,
to hold the integrity.
What it's intended to. Yeah.
That's what I was telling you. I don't know if we mentioned it before when we had to pause, but as a Mysore teacher, when I'm teaching somebody in the Mysore room, I have to gauge multiple aspects of them on whether or not it's time to give them new postures or not. And it rarely comes down to the physicality.
Yes, I'd like to ask you a bit more about that, Brice, just even on a personal level for us that are working at home, following some of your exercise videos. How do we, what would you say is a good way to kind of discern whether we should be pushing ourselves or whether we need to just step back and have a day off? Because I do find sometimes I'll push myself physically and then I'll end up getting really sick, for a few days.
That's and it's normal. So that happens. Yeah. Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up. That's called the yoga fever. And actually, our lovely, I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, our lovely tester, Alicia, because she's been doing all these, she got sick. And I said, girl, it just means it's working. So we have this thing called the yoga fever. So what tends to happen, so because of tapas, because of heat, we tell students, you're supposed to practice through everything except your cycle for women. Because that's the practice itself, all exercise is very pranic, which is very upward rising energy. And when you're on your cycle, your body is in full aponic. So we want to honor that and have you rest on your cycle, at least the first couple of days.
Okay, so maybe like 2 to 3 days?
I take off 2 days. I do the first 2 days of my cycle.
Okay.
Someone I know, and this will depend on each person. And the more you get in touch with your subtle body as a woman, the more you'll recognize this. I have some friends that we call it a ladies' holiday. They actually have the worst in their PMS, so they actually take a couple of days off before they get their period, and by the time their period comes, so it just depends on.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends on the rhythm of your body. For me, I
Yes.
actually have the strongest practice. Like the day before my period starts, that's when my practice is the strongest. Where I'm like,
Oh.
I'm flexible and strong, and then next day I've got cramps in a period, right? Like yeah. So it's different for every woman. And
Okay.
for women who now practicing on your cycle too could also lead to things like osteoporosis. So we want to be aware the body is doing so much and is losing. So and it's not your lining isn't blood. We know that it's your uterine lining, but there's also blood in it. So because you're releasing so much from your body, we want to honor that and we want to keep you calm so that you don't develop. So you're not working against nature, right? That's black magic is working against nature, right? We want you to work with nature and have those couple of days to just relax. My teacher wants you to lay in bed for 2 days. We know in the West we can't do that, but now for menopause, for women who have gone through menopause, you're not exempt from this. Just because you've gone through menopause does not mean you're still not on a cycle. Just because you don't bleed anymore doesn't mean you don't still have a uterus. Even if you've had a hysterectomy, you're still a woman and you still have this energetic patterning. So it is suggested for people who've gone through menopause that if you're on your period right now, figure out which moon you're either gonna bleed around the full moon or the new moon. I bleed around full moon. So once you go through menopause, whatever moon you bled around, you take a couple of days off around that moon.
Right. That is very good to know.
Yeah. Just to honor that within your body, because even though you're not showing the signs through the cycle, you're still on that cycle, right? You're still a woman. So it might not be as intense for you anymore. That might be a good thing. But and trust me, there are a lot of 70-year-old women in this practice who are badasses. So you will practice this until the day.
That's awesome.
It's still, you have to honor that. Now, men do go through a cycle every 3 months because they're solar, they're pranic, but men don't get a rest day because they're already pranic. So they don't get the ladies' holiday. They do get like one rest day a week, but they don't get the ladies' holiday like we get, right? But if your boyfriend or partner gets bitchy every 3 months, that's why.
Why? Their period.
They're on their period.
So you normally work out like Monday to Saturday and have like a Sunday off? Or?
It's different for me. So when I was first starting, I followed the traditional cycle, which we always took Saturdays off because Saturday is the day of Saturn, right? So every day has and Saturn is, Saturn gets a bad rap because bad guys have really used and abused Saturn, but Saturn in its rightful template it's created by God too. Saturn is father time. That's what Saturn is. And so therefore it is the representation of karma. So on Saturdays we rest as a way to integrate the work we've done on our karma for the week. So when I first started doing this practice, I was very strict with that. We also do take actual moon days off. So like if a new moon falls on a Friday, I'm not going to get too heavy into that. That's very kind of superstition from India, but like a traditional yoga shalas will follow that. But so you're practicing anywhere between 5 and 6 days a week. Now for me now, 19 years later, because my schedule is so different, I schedule my rest day. My rest day might be different each week. Like this past week, I took Monday off because I had done so much with the videos that we'll get into that. I was like so unbelievably sore that I was like, I'm just going to take that was my rest day, was Monday. So, the more you get in touch with your body now in the beginning of when you first start, you're not going to be in touch with that. Right? You're going to think you need a rest day when you don't because you're
I need a rest day every day.
Exactly. It's like building a callus, right? I know that sounds kind of gross, but like when you start to like use your hands and build calluses, if you stop, the callus goes away. So we want to get your body and get you really in tuned to what is your ego and what is your actual body. And we talk about this a lot in the Alchemy of Movement course, which we have where I talk a lot about this. And I'll give a little brief. I mean, we go into more detail in the course, but so the thinking mind when we think about emotions, our emotions aren't actually coming from the mind. They're coming more from the gut, right? That's why you get like butterflies in your stomach. That's why you have visceral nervous system reactions to things. The mind's job, as far as the organ, the brain, the organ, is to solve problems. Like the heart pumps blood, the digestive system's your trash can. This solves problems. However, the mind is also associated with the ego or the false sense of self. And the ego does have a place. People talk bad about the ego all the time. Actually, the ego is your best friend because that's going to be your biggest resistance, yeah, for yourself. So when we look at the body, and it's very interesting, when let's say, like, one thing I know most people hate is cardio. A lot of people hate cardio, right? Hate it. And cardio has its place. We talk about in the alchemy of movement, cortisol levels, and there's people who are going to be, bodies are going to be able to handle cardio better than others, and it's going to be different at different stages of your life. Take the alchemy of movement course for that all information. But let's just talk about the mental aspect of running. All you guys watching, all y'all, most of you probably hate to run. Hate it. Like your mind, all of a sudden, my mother was a big runner. My dad used to say, you never see runners smiling, right? But I don't know if people realize your body loves it. If your cortisol levels are stable, your body loves it. Your body loves running.
Because, and why do so many people get up and do it every day? There's obviously something going on.
Your body loves it. It's the mind that doesn't. So why does the mind not love it? So anytime you hardcore challenge, so your ego is associated with the false sense of self or limited belief. Your ego is what's afraid of death. Your soul isn't afraid of death. Your body's not afraid of death. It's your ego that's afraid of death, which is associated with the mind because the mind's the problem solver. So whenever you do something that challenges, this is all subconscious. You're not plotting this every morning when you're putting your sneakers on. This is all subconscious, right? Whenever you do something that challenges the validity of the ego, there's going to be pushback from the ego.
Yeah.
But the body actually loves it. So anytime you exercise, another aspect of exercising, especially sweat-inducing exercise, is that you are cleansing your body. So think about, like, if you never exercise, that's the equivalent of never taking a shower.
Wow.
On the inside.
That's kind of gross. When you put it that way.
And I talk about this in the Alchemy of Movement course. Think about if, like, you were locked in a room and you weren't allowed to take a shower. The first couple of days might be annoying, but but then by the third or fourth day, it's going to really bother you.
Yeah.
Shower. Well, that's the same thing with your organs, right? So when you're, the good thing about what they cardiovascular work, aerobic work, cardio is heart, vascular is vein system. So this is the heart and the oxygen working together. So any type of aerobic work, you're creating energy through oxygen. So, and that oxygen is what fuels the blood to pump through the body. Now, your blood is what heals your body. Your blood is the greatest healer that it's better than any medication. And so what happens, like, when you're running, your cheeks turn red, your muscles turn a little red. It's because the blood is pumping into those areas of the body. It's leaving. That's why they tell you not to eat before you exercise, because your blood is actually going to leave the digestive tract to go to your limbs, to your muscle group. And when it gets in there, that blood is now literally pulling out toxins, like literal toxins, and you're sweating them out.
Yeah.
But if the body is the representation of the mind, those toxins aren't just literal toxins, those are also thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. Emotional, mental, physical, yeah. All of those different toxins coming out.
Yeah. So that's why, so you're not only jumping when you, like, a lot of people who struggle with constipation. So, like, let's say that you're really constipated.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't be doing any yoga, like asana, if you're constipated. We need to get you to poop first. Because if you're twisting or doing back bending when you're compacted, you're going to bruise your internal organs.
Oh, wow.
And you're going to possibly pop a. And back in the day, they used to check stomachs.
Really?
So if you're constipated, you need to go for a fucking run.
Wow. So you've got to get the cardio, get the body moving if you're constipated.
Jiggle the colon. You look at, like, marathons or long road races, they have porta potties everywhere. And you see a lot of marathon runners where they always make jokes about how they're 2 miles in, also, and they got to go take it. Like, it's because your body is moving. And when this dumps, literal, the poisons in your body can now come into your colon to be removed too. So that's why I go back to the analogy with the apple and the green beans. So this is why we got to get you subtly to know your body, so you know what's going to be, what supplement, what exercise supplement, what prescription is good for you on particular days. Now, as far as cardio for weight loss, I'm not a fan. I don't think anybody should be doing cardio for weight loss. Okay. I think if weight loss is an issue for you, which if you're overweight, yeah, we need to get your weight a little bit down because we want to get your body back in balance. Just if you're underweight, the same issue. There's an imbalance, right? It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a less valuable person. No one gets out of this world alive, right? We've all got stuff we got to work on. Like it just, we just got to get you back into a more balanced state. So when we talk about calorie burn, which I don't like talking about calorie burn, I do talk about it in the Alchemy of Movement course because it's such a huge part of our culture in the West. Yeah. What is a calorie? A calorie is only a value of energy. That's all it is, right? And we have things called empty calories, which are like junk food, basically, right? That's all calories are. So if you go on a long run, you're obviously going to burn a crap ton of calories. But have you ever noticed that you've been training for a road race and all of a sudden you gain weight because you're hungrier, or your body's on because maybe your cortisol levels are too high? So what it's doing, because with cardio, your body creates energy two ways, oxygen or glucose. In cardio, your body's creating it through oxygen, which is beautiful and it has its purposes. But if you're using that for weight loss, you're just messing with your system. What's really good for weight loss is actually the anaerobic work, which has you're not going to burn as many calories with anaerobic work, but it's going to put you in what's called a metabolistic boost for the rest of the day, where your calorie burn the rest of the day is going to be higher, but it's not going to increase your appetite. So what do we talk about with anaerobic? That's a lot of yoga. And that's a lot of bar work, is anaerobic. Yeah. So
that's another thing we have been programmed to believe, is that if you're overweight or you need to lose weight, go for a run, go do the cardio stuff, do all the cardio classes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like cardio classes are great. You should absolutely be doing that for the right reasons. To get your blood pumping, we have stale oxygen, and when you up your heart rate, it's going to release the stale oxygen, so fresh oxygen can come in. We call it pranayama, life force. I do I run 1 to 2 days a week. And I just do that literally for my heart health, for that big flush, because it is a flush. Running is a flush. Like I said, it's a big flush. But the rest of the week, it's all anaerobic work. Now there is, you do lift your heart rate up in anaerobic work. There is low impact aerobic in anaerobic work. I know that might sound weird. So like sun salutation, walking would be like low impact. Right? And so like in traditional yoga, we'd start with the sun salutations, which is get your body hot. It's sun salutation. Sun is prana. Prana is heat. Salutations is a greeting. Surya Namaskar. It's literally you warming your body up, getting your body sweaty. Right? So that when we get into the anaerobic work, your body can drop deeper into the muscles to burn the glucose. And with glucose, that's literal like stuff you're holding on to. Right? That's literal shadow work. Right? That's why people get so triggered in like yoga or because it's coming up. Yeah. Yeah. It's learning to stay. It's learning to feel the trigger and just stay with it. And the mind's going to be like, no. The mind's going to start negotiating, because when you find that trigger, now the ego's being triggered because you have this false sense of belief about yourself, good or bad. But here is actually where the truth is. And once we bust through the truth, this false sense of self is not going to have power anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
So can I ask, Brice, for our beginners out there that are quite new to exercise and haven't had it as much of a routine, what would you recommend for them to start off with to get started?
Well, that's why we have so many different, now the workout videos that I have on, I say that loosely because I think of it more as a practice. It's a practice for your own spirituality.
And you have made a wide range to suit all different kinds of levels of working out. But people that are like brand new, just getting started, say they're like, okay, right, I want to commit to doing, 5 to 6 days a week. I'll have Saturdays off to, kind of honor Saturn and everything. What, But just for the people that are really new and beginning, maybe like, would you suggest they go for a walk a couple of days a week and then do some of your, well, I mean, you've got your walking workouts, which are so much fun. I love them.
I'm gonna do more of those. I have fun with those too. I never thought I'd have fun doing a walking workout, and I wish I had class.
Awesome.
I get cracked up doing it because the music. I find this music, and sometimes the music makes me laugh, and and I wish you guys were with me, like to do. I'm just staring at a camera by myself, but so it depends on. So every person is going to be different, okay? And if you're confused about that, please reach out to me. That's the one thing I've said. Paul and I have said over and over again with this platform. We're not just pumping and dumping. And then there you go. It's up. You deal with it now. No,
we're going to be there to guide you and to help you
as best we can virtually. We're going to be there to help you, and every single person is going to be different. So if you already are used to exercising, like if you already have some level of fitness, you could probably do 5 to 6 days a week. But if you're brand spanking new, like you've never worked out, at this point for the first like 6 months, I would say do 3 to 4 days.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that's really good for those people to know. Right.
Minimum,
so months,
minimum is 3 days a week. Minimum. All right. To make changes. Yeah. So, and it doesn't have to be. Now, again, do not compare your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 10. Right. So do not compare yourself to me or any other instructor or teacher you run across. You want your teacher to be 10 steps ahead of you. Right? You want your teacher to be so that they know how to help you the best, okay? And as teachers, our job is to meet you where you are, not where we are, which is actually for me been fun because doing a virtual platform, I don't know you guys yet a lot. So I'm just creating all sorts of stuff to kind of see what works best for you. And as we build this platform and we hear back from you, I'll know more about like what to make, right? For you guys. So I would say for the beginners, we have some 30-minute videos. The minimum you do is 20 minutes, the minimum. Okay. So, and I say in these videos a lot, especially like the walking videos, when the tempo gets a little faster, I always say in these videos, or the choreography change. Now, there's a reason why I'm doing particular choreography to try to trigger certain parts of the body. I'm trying to get your hip to open. I'm trying to trigger more core release, lower back release, not just physically, but energetically, looking at where the chakras are, where we're triggering different vayus or energy pathways. But if you're new, especially, don't worry about that. I'm worrying about that for you. You just show up and try to follow along as best you can. If that seems overwhelming, again, this is my job. So I'm going to worry about that when I choreograph these classes. Okay. But that's just for me to say, like, there's a rhyme and a reason as to why I choreograph things a certain way. But with that being said, especially if you're new, if something gets overwhelming in the video, don't panic. Just come down to a basic walk. Just don't quit. Just keep your body moving.
Keep going. Yeah. Watch
it for a moment and then come back to it every day. And I do, we are going to be dumping more videos, but I do suggest that's the beautiful thing about Ashtanga yoga. That's when you do Ashtanga yoga, you're doing the same practice every day and you're slowly evolving it. So what tends to happen is you drop deeper into it. You're not just skimming.
Repetition and the muscle memory, you're building the muscle memory.
And you start to have these like prativa moments where all of a sudden, maybe you're in a bar class and you're squeezing the ball between your legs. All of a sudden you drop a little bit lower unintentionally, but your body just goes there and you go, oh.
You're like, oh, I can do that now.
My body just dropped. My body actually went there without me directing it. It actually dropped lower and I felt my muscles catch. That catch is that's the bandha. That's what we're looking for, is that parachute catch. And so you're going to be doing the videos that you like. Do them repeatedly during the week and you'll see yourself grow, and it's a great way to mark your progress because you're going to get better. It's scientifically impossible. If you continue to do the same video over and over again, it's scientifically impossible for you not to get better. You're going to get better at it, right? But then what's really interesting, when you get a little bit more kind of past that beginning stage, find the videos you don't like, the ones that really
give you some triggers.
But that takes
really uncomfortable.
And that takes a mature practitioner to do that intentionally. So in the beginning, you do what you like to keep you like.
Get into that routine, build it into the muscle memory. Yeah.
to get to know
making it a
yourself
habit,
better,
a daily
to get more
habit.
secure with yourself in this work. And you'll know when it's time. You'll know when it's time that you should go, oh, that video really pissed me off. Ooh, that work, that's crazy. You'll know, and you'll go, well, maybe interesting. Maybe I should explore this more. Maybe I should try this more. And that's the difference. I always tell my students, that's the difference between an advanced student and a beginner student. They're both struggling. Even though the advanced student might have a prettier practice, they're still struggling. The difference is the advanced student knows how to work with their mind. The advanced student's not going to give into their mind as much as the beginner, because they know this routine. I laugh. I tell you guys this all the time. Literally, this is the truth. After we're done filming, I'm going to practice. I guarantee you, within the first 5 minutes, I'm going to be thinking about laundry.
Yeah. That laundry's just waiting for you.
For 19 years, that literally has been my because I'm OCD, and literally I did laundry yesterday, so there is no laundry to do. So but that will my mom, because I'm OCD.
So your mind still travels to laundry.
My ego is finding things that trigger me, that make me want to get out of the practice, and so that's usually where it goes to. For somebody else, it might not be that. For somebody else, it might be, oh God, I DVR'd that reality show. Let me watch that first, then I'll practice. It's going to try everything to get you, because the ego is what's afraid of death. Yeah, and that's what it all.
For me, it's just like, I'm just going to clean up my 5-year-old's toys that are just not just in one room; they're in every room of the house. So
you start to recognize that, and you kind of I see it when it happens to me. I'm like, tee hee hee, and I'm always like, listen, we'll get to the laundry afterwards. You got plenty of sweatpants to wear, So you start to learn, and I say that in the Alchemy of Movement course. The mantra I try to tell people is what happens if you stay? Even if that's just 30 more seconds, even if that's holding that lunge for 2 more breaths, what happens if you stay? What's going to happen? What's going to happen? And Marnie Alton actually talked about this in one of her classes, and I loved it. Whenever, we kind of talked about this with Carrie yesterday, whenever you're about to have a breakthrough, whenever you're edging up to this new, I hate using the word new normal, but I guess the woke left gave us something good, this new patterning. A lot of times the psyche will panic and pull back, because the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. And when you start to notice that, in the beginning you might not notice that, but over time, when you start to notice that patterning with yourself, you feel yourself start to pull back, you can go, what happens if I stay? What happens if I actually just sink a little bit deeper in this lunge? And of course, you will be surprised, and I would love to hear from other people in the comment section who have been big exercisers, we'll say, in their life, because I think this is true across the board. You will be surprised at how much just exercising 3, 4, 5 days a week actually changes the rest of your life.
Yeah.
For the better.
It's so powerful. Yeah. So it really does. It ripples into every other area of your life.
Yeah. I always laugh when I see a runner. I can bet you anything. A runner, I can bet you their house is organized. Their bed is made up. Yeah. I would bet my life when I pass runners in the park, when I go for a run, that are you can tell by their bodies that they're a runner. Bet you anything, that bed is made up. And their house
whole life is organized. Yeah.
It might not have started that way when they first started, but everything starts to filter. It's like that energy, because you're changing your energy. You're literally changing and when you're willing to fight for yourself, when you're willing to put yourself into that, let's say I'm using running as an example, because that's what everyone knows how to run, right? We all, I'm talking with any type of exercise or anything. When you start to put yourself in that controlled demolition, when you get up every morning and you do something hard for yourself, that changes you. You start to value yourself more, right? And I read an article too, or no, not an article, sorry. I don't know why I said that. It was a TikTok. Some guy had said, it was this Asian guy who's a runner. I follow a lot of runners on Insta, because I find them to be very spiritual people. Marathon runners, listen, no one's running a marathon for their health, right? You can run 3 miles for your health, be fine. This is their yoga.
They're trying to achieve something big. Yeah.
It's a mental thing. It's a spiritual thing. That's hatha yoga. That's what they're doing. Well, this guy said that studies had found that people who get up early in the morning and go for a run tend to be more creative during the day. And
Yeah,
he
right.
believed it was because when you are able to first thing in the morning do the hardest thing of your day and bust through those
I was going to
limitations.
say that. Yeah. Everything else feels easier, doesn't it? Once you've gotten through that.
You can, and the thing too, the thing that he didn't realize too, because I think he was right, is you're getting your blood flowing. So your
Mm.
brain is getting more blood, more oxygen. So of course more ideas, more creativity is coming, because when your blood flows, what is that? That's vitality and life force. When you're, one thing the Emerald Tablets talked about, which is true, what did Thoth say? When we are in spirit form, without our bodies, we don't know death because our spirits don't die. So when we don't know death, we don't know life. So it's only when we're in body, that's where the ego is important, that we know death, we understand death, that we can now have life, because there's that duality, right? Now that makes sense because your second chakra, which is right kind of behind your navel, and a lot of people talk about the second chakra as being sexuality. It is, but that's not the main, it's creation.
Yeah, that's just part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's your creative outlet. So,
Yeah.
and those bottom three chakras are your humanity. So your creative chakra isn't up in the upper, which is all spiritual. It's not up
No.
here. It's down there.
Yeah. And that's why we need to work on those bottom three chakras and be present here right now. And yeah, like you've been saying, exercise is just one of the most brilliant ways to embody you here and ground you here.
Yeah.
So I would love to, sorry to interrupt, but I'd love to just move on from here, talking about when you exercise. I mean, I know for me personally, if I don't do exercise first thing in the morning, it doesn't happen because the rest of the day is just too hectic. And I mean, everybody's different because depending on their lifestyle, some people might be able to just fit it in during their lunch break. Some people are like us and have to do it in the morning. Some people need to do it in the evening. But in terms of what traditional yoga teaches us and about the doshas and about the different times, the vata being first, and then we go into pitta and kapha, is that right?
Yeah.
So it's usually better to do it.
We go vata. So from 2 to 6 a.m. is vata, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. is kapha, 10 a.m. to 6 a.m. is pitta. So yeah, so it goes
vata, okay, I got them. Yeah.
Vata, kapha, pitta. Yeah.
Yeah. So so you would recommend that, vata time, that probably is the best time?
That's a really good question. So yes, in traditional yoga, we practice during a time that's called Brahma Muhurta. So this is the time of God. That's the vata time of day. So a lot of people here have ever, like, if you've ever done a devotional, people get up early in the morning and do it. That's why, because it's the time of God. During the vata time between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., that's when the veil is the thinnest. It's also for your nervous system. There's not a whole lot going on around you. The world is quiet.
Yeah.
And so it creates a different sensation. And I laugh, and when I'd be in India, I'd be like, no one's ego is awake at this point. Like,
yeah, that's right. And also, if you've got children, they're usually asleep at this time and you get to have some alone time.
It's so funny. We have at our shala at AYA, we allow, some yoga teachers don't allow this, but we allow some of our female students to bring their cell phones and like put it by their mat, because they'll leave their kids asleep in their beds and come to and they'll just put their, and we understand why, just in case something happens, that they
That's awesome. I love that you do that.
I mean, being a parent, like, we're not going to be as narcissistic to say no. If your kid wakes up and is freaking out, we're going to let you take your phone call, go see your kids. So for me, and that's all, I was always before I discovered traditional yoga, I was always a morning exerciser anyway too. I'm kind of like you. It's better just to get it done in the morning, and it sets you up for your day. You feel better for the rest of your day. You don't have to worry about it. You're more productive. However, for the super beginners, now I hate when people say I'm not a morning person, because I laugh and go, none of us are. That's why it's called.
We're not. I'm not a morning person. I love sleeping in. But you know what I've noticed? When I sleep in, I often feel hungover. Even if I haven't had any alcohol. I just feel groggy and nauseous and get a headache. Even when I haven't.
Especially when your body gets on that schedule. So take that out of the equation. Don't, everybody who gets up early in the morning to exercise, they've done it. It's been difficult. They do it. They're disciplined. So don't, I always tell my students, don't confuse your laziness with somebody else's discipline. Because that's really disrespectful to them. It's also disrespectful to you too. You just don't know it. But with that being said, if that's too overwhelming for you in the beginning, or if you work a job where you're like, Brice, I start work at 6 a.m., that's okay. We can work around that. Is you in the beginning especially, just fit it in a time that works for you.
Yeah, whenever it's going to work for you. Yeah.
The only time I would not do, you can maybe do the stretch and strength classes at this time, but I would not do any like real sweaty classes right before bed because it's going to up your energy. So you might have a harder time sleeping. You know, but as far as when you're in the beginning of your journey, I wouldn't be so confined to times yet, just as long as you're getting it done. So again, you eat this elephant one bite at a time. And then over time, you will start to work with you to get you more on like a meditative schedule.
To the morning time.
Yeah.
I just think that's so important for people to know that, you know, just in the beginning, the first 6 months, you know, just fit it in when you can, and then move it on to preferably to the morning, because that's the best time.
But give yourself space to evolve. Like, don't try to be perfect from the very beginning, because you're going to have it. Now, when it comes to like knowing if you should take a rest day or not, you know, what's difficult again is that when you first start, you might be a little sore and you think you need to rest when you don't, you know, got to work through it. And that's going to take experimenting. That's going to take you just like trusting the process. I hate to sound culty like that. You'll get to a point where you know that your body is really tired and needs a rest.
What about if you get the sickness that comes up?
Okay, so I'm glad we brought that back up again. So that does happen. We call it the yoga fever, and this happens to runners too, when you are working out, again, you're burning karma. And so when if you get a low-grade fever, now, if it's a low-grade fever, now I'm not going to give you medical advice. You guys know how I feel but that's me. This is not medical advice. This is just yoga advice. So when you get a low-grade fever, anytime you get a fever, you're not supposed to exercise. Why is this? Because when you're on a run or you're exercising, you're heating your body up anyway. When you have a fever, your body's just naturally doing it.
Yeah.
So the intention's the same in both cases. And what's happened, like Pattabhi Jois used to get very excited when people got the fever.
Really?
And the practice was working.
Wow.
Because you're burning karma.
Yeah.
Burning karma. Your body is now changing. And so drink a lot of fluids. Try to be as homeopathic as possible with it. Now, if you're super sick and you need to go to a doctor, I mean, any sickness is burning karma. But if you're I'm not like, you know, you got to decide what's best for you. But yeah, and sometimes with yoga fevers, what happens is you'll have a low-grade fever in the night, but then you'll wake up in the morning and be fine. But then that night you'll have a low-grade fever again, and then you'll wake up in the morning and be fine. And it'll kind of happen that way for like a week or two as your body is transitioning. If you feel any type of like aches and pain, this is a big one, backache. So many students are like, my back hurts, I can't practice. And I'm like, I got 5 herniated discs. Get your ass in the class. Like, people get really weird about their back. And I get it because it's the spine. 2 things. 1, you have all these little muscles on your spine. You got kids. Kids can like back bend and climb trees and swing off. When you were a child, especially those of us who were born in the 1900s, we played outside. We climbed trees. And so these muscles in your spine were working. But then they atrophied at one point. When you started sitting at a desk, getting older, they stopped being used as much, so they atrophied. So what happens sometimes, people mistake back pain for sore muscles. So those muscles start to regenerate again. And that's gonna, like, you know how your biceps get sore, your quads get sore? So do those muscles, right? You're fine. Also, with back pain, a lot of back pain is associated with definitely the emotional body. So when you're doing a practice and you've got some emotional issues, your back's gonna start hurting at some point. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And if you stop practicing because your back is hurting, you're screwing yourself over, right? So what happens then? If you've got a back pain, you need to tell the teacher, we're going to modify you. We're not going to do the full practice. We're going to modify you, but we're going to keep you moving.
Yeah.
What's happened is all of your work has accumulated and now stuff is coming to the surface. Heavy, deep stuff is coming to the surface. If you run away from the practice, that stuff that's come from the surface is just going to go right back in again.
Go back down again. Yeah. and then, it's going to turn into something else.
Yeah. Or then you're going to come back after a couple weeks and it's going to come up again and you're going to run. It's just going to be like a, it's what's
that's where you just got to push through it. Just keep going.
And that's where teachers like me have to have tough love. That's why we have to have all this experience to know like when.
Well, whether, they generally are not well and they need to be taken care of, or whether it's just like, okay, you just got to push through this bit, you can do it.
This is actually good news. It means that your work is paying off, and we're going to modify you. We're not going to like overdo it. We're going to work with the sensation, but we're going to still work with it because it's asking. It's like a volcano about to erupt. It's asking to erupt. Once it erupts, it's out.
And it's released.
Yeah, and I'll say when I work with them, like, if you feel like you need to cry, just cry. I'm not going to draw attention to it as a teacher. Usually when people cry in my classes, I just leave them. Like, I don't even draw attention to it.
And people just need that. Like I said, like yesterday, I just had a bit of an overwhelming day, went out into the backyard, had a little cry, and I released it. And then I came back and I felt awesome afterwards. I felt so good because we just got to own it. We just got to go there and be like, okay, this is coming up. Feel into it. Release it, let it go, and then we can move on. But the more you just suppress it and holding it in, that's when we get all these health problems.
And it becomes a samskara. And what a samskara is like a broken record. And so you have particular karma that you've been working through in every single life. And it's not budging, right? That's a samskara. So now you have the opportunity to face those samskaras. So imagine if there's something in your back that's a result of some karma that you need to work through, and every single life you've run from it. It's not going to go anywhere.
So this is really interesting. So I'm not sure if you've heard of Diana Cooper or not, but she wrote this book I really love called The Golden Future, and she says that in this lifetime, we can no longer run and hide from our karma anymore because we're moving into ascension. Because in the past, we could, family members could just pass it on to other family members and be like, yeah, you deal with that karma, you deal with it. But we can't anymore. And I think that's why we're going through such an intense time at the moment, is because everything is coming up to be dealt with. So many truths are coming out. People are waking up to things and what's been going on in the world. And so much stuff is coming up. So what a more beautiful, perfect time to get into consistent exercise and strengthen your body ready for this ascension. I just feel like now could not be a better time. And going into 2025, this is the time to do it. You got to start burning off that karma. We got to work through this stuff. We've got to do the work so that we can ascend so much more easily, and then be there to help the others that have not been ready to do the work yet for whatever reason. They're just not ready, and we can help them then because we'll be strong.
And that's, it's so funny. People might, because I've had that, like, was I really the unlucky person that got to inherit all this karma? Actually, yes.
Yeah.
You picked this.
Yeah.
When the sperm hit the egg, you picked which one that was. So, because you wanted certain challenges. And so you picked it. And that's powerful. So you got this. Like, you picked this. So you're good. Like, you can do this. And it's not going to be, and that's the beautiful thing. I wanted to show one thing too here for you guys, because I know I've been saying this word a lot, and I wanted to show you guys the definition. So that's where the satsang comes into play, which is also one of the things we're creating. The satsang is a Sanskrit term that refers to a gathering of people for spiritual or yoga instruction, or a group of people engaged in spiritual dialogue. That's your community. And your satsang, your community, your specific community, is going to end up being some of the most important people in your life. Like, one of my best friends, Chris, who's going to be coming on our platform too, I met him in India on my first trip. And when you meet people in a situation where you are in such a controlled demolition and your whole life is falling apart internally, and they're going through the same thing as well internally, you bond in ways.
Yeah. That's a powerful bond.
Yeah. It's almost, I kind of, and I don't mean any disrespect, but I kind of refer to kind of like military people. Like, they're bonded.
Absolutely, because they go through intense training.
Yeah. And so, especially in India, when you're Westerners and you're in a different culture. And so on this platform, I know we have a lot of people from my shadow work group that have already signed up. I'm so excited. They're already in satsang with each other. And so it becomes a community where if you're like, if your back is hurting and you just need that encouragement, your classmates, your shala mates, your satsang can be like, yeah, this fucking sucks, but we got you. Just keep going forward. We're gonna, even if you can't step, you gotta crawl, you crawl forward, and we're gonna be there to support you. You know, and that's even different from the teachers, because the teachers aren't really a part of the satsang. The satsang is the students. You know, my teacher Sharat wasn't a part of, because there's a vulnerability that you share with each other when you're under the instruction. Now, one thing I wanted to bring up, kind of referring back to that awesome guy's question. With all the exercises that I don't want to scare people, with all the exercises that I've put up now, they're all safe. They're not as potentially dicey as the Ashtanga practice. We have an Ashtanga course for you to watch, but the ones we have up now, they're all relatively safe. So you don't need to worry about like having a teacher with you. You know, of course you can get hurt walking down the street. Like injury can happen at any point, right? I'm not saying it's completely like, you know, there's always a possibility of that happening, but you don't have to worry about the potency, what I've been talking about with the practices that I have up now. Even though I've taken information and created this for you,
but you've created it so that it's safe for people to practice at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Without an instructor present.
Yeah. Right. I would not put anything up. That would not be ethically good of me to put anything up that would potentially. Now with the Ashtanga we have up now, I even say, please, this is just to watch, so you have a better understanding of what it is. Now in the springtime, I think about I'm gonna do an Ashtanga beginner course. But I'm trying to figure out how I want to do this. And I've actually talked with Cindy about it. I've talked with my partner about it. I think I talked to you about it, Paula. When we drop the course, I'm going to have actual like classroom information, like the education behind it. And then we're going to build with the practice. And I'm going to hire our assistant so that she can do the practice while I'm actually showing you what's happening. I can point it out in her body. But we're only going to go up to quarter primary series, which is a thorough enough practice. But I'm doing that
the last few years. Practice.
Yeah, a quarter primary series is a complete practice. We're stopping you on a neutral posture, so you're leaving in a neutral place. And then if it's something you really like you really feel like this is what you need to do, I will help you find a teacher in your area. Because there are postures in primary series that are advanced postures. So I'm stopping right before we get into those advanced postures because I don't want anybody throwing their knee out. And Ashtanga is tough love. Part of the lessons in Ashtanga yoga is injury, but we don't want to be stupid. I don't want you injuring yourself because you didn't have proper teaching. Yeah. So that's what we're going to do in like the March, April, May. So it depends on how, like I said, I was telling you off camera, I don't know if we were filming yet. I want to make sure that we've gotten everything worked out with the platform, because we want to make sure I've still got a few more things to add to my courses, my quantum healing courses, and we're going to be adding a bit more content. So that's why we're just in the soft launch stage at the moment. There might be a few technical things that might need to be fixed and corrected. So and any feedback from you guys as well, anything you want us to cover, anything you would love us to go into, just let us know. And that's what this soft launch stage is for. And then once we get into February 20 and then March, that's when we're going to be doing the full big launch. We'll have our schedule at that point. We'll know exactly like who we've got in the community. And so and I told you, Paul, is like when I start filming the beginner course, I'm going to be so focused on that to make sure it's thorough enough. That I don't want, I want to make sure that we're all, and so, but what you have now, and to be honest with you guys, like I broke my sacrum back in 2000, not a few years ago, it's almost 10 years now, 2016. And I was only doing Ashtanga yoga at that time. And my friend Chris, that I want to bring on, he was like, he's really into movement therapy. And even though I met him in India, and he's like, you need to start doing this bar stuff. It's going to help strengthen you. And that's how I discovered bar. And so even in now coming up to 2025, I still do both Ashtanga and bar. Like I don't just do Ashtanga now. I run 2 days a week. I might go for a run and do an Ashtanga practice, but I've been doing this for 19 years. It's not something I would suggest a beginner doing. Right? Like don't, you got to build up to that. And I will say, so my boyfriend is one of them, which Paula is actually going to interview him coming up. I'm not going to be in the interview because it's like your parent, like
Yeah.
I think we might start bickering on camera, so it would be better if she interviews him. And that's going to be on our platform. But he is one of the senior teachers here. I consider him a master teacher. He's crossed into master teacher territory. And when he's been adjusting my body for a long time. And when I started doing the bar work after I broke my sacrum, even to this day, when you get into your 40s, we always laugh. That's when sometimes you got to start giving postures back. But at this point, every time he adjusts me, he's like, "This is the strongest your body." My practice has gotten stronger since doing the bar.
From the bar.
Yeah.
Wow,
so
that's amazing.
So everything I give you guys, even though I'm talking about Ashtanga, I do all this other stuff too.
Yeah.
So this is something
just that. Yeah.
This is something that has benefited, and I never thought that I would ever teach any type of version of bar, but with Cindy actually, because I would chat with her a lot, because I've taught, I can't even remember how long I've taught for Cindy now, and I would kind of workshop this stuff with students sometimes, and that's why we decided to create a whole class around it at Sacred Garden, because it was so beneficial for me. I want to share it with you, right? And so just everything on that playlist is stuff I do myself.
Mm-hmm.
I just now filmed the walking videos, but I take our dog on a WAOK all the time. So yeah. Do we want to show the website quickly again?
Yeah, absolutely.
Paula, share it.
Sure.
And you guys, like what we're offering now for the soft launch at $25 a month for everything you're getting, like I'm still like, that is the price of a drop in for like one class at a yoga studio. So
okay, so can you see that okay?
yes.
Yeah. So this is our website. I'll just get rid of that little note. Okay, yep. So this is just our homepage, and it's just giving you some information about me and Brice, and just discussing our membership community. Then we've got our different memberships. So we do offer a free membership, but the free membership is basically just mainly a lot of the videos that have been taken off Brice's channel. And so just so that you can watch a lot of YouTube videos ad-free if you're not already paying for a premium membership with YouTube. And then we've got our membership. And then for people that might perhaps want to do the courses but aren't interested in doing the membership, that's fine. We've got the courses available for, you can just purchase them by themselves. Of course, if you do join up with the membership, all of these courses are included, and these courses will continue to grow. We're going to be adding more and more stuff all the time, but that's just what we've got to begin with. Then there just goes into some information about what we're offering. So I'll just bring you, I love this quote, and I had to include it on the front page because it's from a guy called R.J. Spina, and he basically became paralyzed, and he has brought himself back to full health. And it's just so inspirational. And he says that nobody is going to overcome your obstacles for you because they cannot. And to see ill health for what it is a challenge. Nothing more and nothing less. Accept it without hesitation so that you can summon true grace and real power. And that's what our mystery school is all about. We're all about, this is your work that you've got to do. And we're here to support you and to help you along the way. So, so that's basically the front page. And then just taking you up to the top, we've just got our products, so then you can go check out more information about our courses, our memberships, and we've got some recommended products. And then also we've got some different healers and teachers that we highly recommend. So obviously we've got Brice and myself on there. We've got Catherine, we've got Cindy, Kerry, who we had an interview with yesterday. You'll be able to watch that interview in the next few days. Tamara and Todd. And as we come across more amazing healers and teachers, we'd love to build a database of people that are all over the world, so we can recommend you to people that we know and trust. So so feel free to contact us about that if you want to connect with anybody, or if you're an amazing healer yourself, get in contact with us, and we can always look at putting you on our website. And then we've just obviously got the about information. So I just wanted to take you over to the memberships page. So in the memberships page, we've got our different memberships, and just we want to offer quite a few different ways of payment for people to make it easier for them. So obviously you can just pay each month if that works for you, or you can pay for 3 months up front, or you can pay for the whole year up front. And then obviously if you're paying for the 3 months or the whole year up front, you're going to get a bit of a discount for that as well. Plus, also anybody that joins in now before February 20 is going to lock in that $25 price, which is an amazing price to lock all of this into. Once we get into February 20 onwards, it will be going up because we're going to be doing our monthly calls. We're going to be doing some coaching calls. Brice is going to be doing her live yoga classes, or just exercise classes in general, really. So much to offer. And then, of course, if you can't afford that or anything right now, then, you know, we've just got the free membership that you can sign up for. And so that's basically it. And I just had to put in about Patanjali saying the longest journey begins with a single step, you know, just like your mum says about the elephant, one bite at a time.
Yep. And I'm glad you brought up the guy who was paralyzed, because I get that question a lot. If you have a disability, we can still work with you. Yeah. Listen, nothing intimidates me, and I can't tell you what I would do on a generalization, but I've worked with a lot of people with disabilities, or if you're in a wheelchair, there's so many things. Just contact me, and I can show you how to do specific videos that I have with your we'll say limitations in quotation marks. There's always
we can work with that. Absolutely.
You still have a mind, you're still breathing, you still have a body.
Yep.
Don't let the establishment think that because you have a certain limitation that you can't use that mind, that breath, and that body.
Yeah. And don't think that you don't have the power to heal yourself.
100%.
Because we really do. Yeah. It can take a bit of work to do that, and it can take confronting a lot of shadows and a lot of uncomfortable things, and, you know, dealing with past issues and past trauma, but it is 100% doable. I mean, if RJ Spinner can be walking today when he was literally on his deathbed. I mean, Anita Morjani, she's another one. She had such bad cancer. Every organ in her body had completely shut down. And she is as healthy as anything today. And,
Tuppy Joyce has a famous quote about that. He says, any man can do yoga, a sick man, a healthy man, a rich man, a poor man, a young man, an old man. The only man who can't do yoga is a lazy man. So, and I know that kind of sounds harsh, but don't confuse the ego, the trick of the mind, for truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I know in the West, when we get injured, we think we've been trained to like run away and not do anything. But I love how Cindy says it. All an injury is asking you to do is redirect your energy. We're going to still modify it. We got to keep you moving. I had a friend in Ashtanga who broke her femur bone. And listen, you guys, if you break your femur bone, that is one of the hardest bones to break. Like, you got a story. Like, that is some major karma. And I'll see if I'll find it on YouTube. I don't know if it's still up, but she figured out a way to do the full primary series from the floor with a huge cast on her leg.
Wow.
So she still practiced.
Wow. Yeah.
There's never an excuse. There's only a lack of knowledge. And so if you're in an area where you've got a cast on or something, you just reach out to me. We'll work with you. Like, it's no problem. It's no problem. I practiced through a broken sacrum. I did bar through. I broke my wrist once and had a cast on my wrist and practiced. It wasn't the full practice. There was modifications being made, but it was still practicing. So
still getting the body moving. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm so excited, Paula.
I'm so excited too.
Hopefully, when we edit this, you guys, we paused it. I was like, they really don't want us talking about this, because this is.
I know, that was crazy.
And this is ancient knowledge. Like, and this is something, did I ever tell you, Paula, my boyfriend, who's been in this world a lot longer than me, he was on like Reddit one day, and there was this chain from one of the Rockefellers. It's gone now. He only left it up for a little while, and he explained like everything they know. They know all this. The powers that be know all this. They practice all this.
Yes, of course. And same with the astrology and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. They're using all of that on a daily basis, but they're just making it out to us that it's bad or evil or, you know,
To empower them, it's selfish. They're all vegetarians. They're all, you know, well, we know they have certain meat they eat at ceremonies, but like for the most part, they follow a very strict, you know, so that's the difference between the darkness and the light. They'll use kind of the same tools, but the darkness will harbor those and be selfish with
and
them.
keep it for themselves. We want to share this with you guys.
You're worth it.
And
your body's amazing. No matter what you think about your body, it's amazing. Your body is, and it's trying to work with you. And so we're going to help you work with it. And yeah, I'm so excited. I'm going to ask Paula again, could you guys share this? Because I've never been this shadow banned.
I can't believe it. I mean, I'm brand new to YouTube, guys. I've only got a few subscribers at the moment. But I've literally had over 100 views for the interview that I did with Brice. And she's only, you've only had like nearly 200 views.
200. And I've got, so that means I've been put in the corner.
Yeah, so that shadow banning is just insane. So anybody that can share this, we would really appreciate that.
Yeah, obviously every time it happens, it's kind of a catch-22 because it sucks. But
it means we're on point.
But I'm like, tell me I'm right without telling me I'm right.
Yeah, we're really covering something really big here, which is so incredibly exciting if we can just get past the shadow banning part.
Tell me you don't want me telling people that spirituality and pulling tarot cards and sitting around doing nothing, that spirituality is actually exercise without telling me that. Like, this is what... Yeah. So anyway, guys, it would be awesome if you can help share it. I have a feeling in the next couple months, I laugh about it now, I think in the next couple months, well, who knows what's going to happen. We got the drones, we got everything. But I have a feeling things are going to get easier when it comes to... Because I know that there's stuff, I can't say too much, but there's stuff happening in the United States where this is our First Amendment right, and it's being infringed upon by the government. So, you know, with these tools. So I have a feeling we can just hold on for a little bit longer. With that being said, just to wrap up too, I'm going to be posting a couple of these Esoteric Academy trailers and stuff from some courses on for the rest of the year, but I'm going to hold back on deep dives until January just because of the heavy shadow banning, just to help kind of, you know, make sure you're following us. And I'm going to have all Paula's links too, guys. Make sure you're following us over on Rumble as well. So, is there anything else you want to say, Paul, before we close out?
No, I think that's it. I've got to go pick up my daughter from work soon.
I know. So that's exciting. I got to go start my day.
Yep, you're going to start your day. I'm going to end my day. But thanks so much, everyone, for watching. And thank you so much to everybody that has supported us so far. And the beautiful shadow work people, shout out to you guys, because you guys are such a beautiful group. And,
aren't they? They're incredible.
Yes, I love them. I really love them. They're so lovely. Yeah. And this is so exciting. And look, if this is not right for you, no hard feelings, but if this is something that you want to look into, you want to empower yourself ready for 2025 and this new future we're going into, we would love to have you guys join up with us, and we'd love to work with you.
And don't hesitate to ask us questions. This is what I do. This is what Paula and I do for a living off of YouTube.
Yeah. So we help people, we communicate, we coach. That's what we're here for. We're here to help you grow.
Absolutely. So don't hesitate to ask. And we'll see you all really soon. I know you got to get your daughter, Paula. So bye, everybody.
Bye.